Welcome back everyone. There is a bunch of new items added in Terraria 1.4.4 that give your character permanent boosts when you use them, and we're gonna check them out today. I thought about how to go about making this video, and I figured why not take an in-depth look at every item that gives you a permanent boost in Terraria. The list isn't huge, so that's what I decided to do, since it should be good information for newcomers to the game or people who don't actually play, but I should have timestamps below, so if you're only here to see the new items, you should be able to skip straight to that section of the video. We're going to begin with the true classic, the Life Crystal. There's no question that this is one of the most important items in the game for any normal player. Life Crystals are consumable items that increase the player's health by 20 and restore 20 health. Up to 15 of these items can be used per player, increasing their health by 300 for a maximum of 400 total HP, at which point the crystals can no longer be used. You can find Life Crystals underground and collect them by using a pickaxe. Additionally, they can also be obtained from golden and titanium crates that you can get by fishing. These items can be used to craft heart lanterns, which give you a small life regeneration buff when you're nearby that can be useful during boss fights or events. If you're in a graveyard mini biome, you can convert a band of star power into a panic necklace with a life crystal at a tinker's workshop, and as of 1.4.4, under the same conditions with a heavy workbench, life crystals can also be used to craft repaired life crystals, which are decorative items, as well as life crystal boulders, which are literally just boulders that look like life crystals. Apparently they generate like actual boulders on a couple of the special seed maps, which I may have to check out at some point now that I know about this, because this is actually one of the funniest things I've ever seen added to the game. Next, we have mana crystals, which are used to increase your mana, which is a resource that is needed in order to use magic and summon weapons. You can craft mana crystals by hand with 5 fallen stars, and you can use up to 9 on a single character, each one increasing your mana by 20 up to a maximum total of 200. Like the life crystals, there are a couple of new crafting recipes that were added in 1.4.4 that the mana crystals can be used for, being the repaired mana crystal, which like its life crystal counterpart is a decorative item, and the band of star power, an accessory that gives you 20 extra mana when equipped, which you can turn a panic necklace into. Moving on, we have the demon heart, which is an item obtained in expert and master mode from the Wall of Flesh's treasure bag. It can be used once per player, and when consumed, the item gives you 1 extra accessory slot, which is obviously a huge buff, as even one more good accessory added to your setup can be very impactful for boss fights and traversing your world in general. The life fruit is the final of what I consider the standard consumable buffing items from the older ages of this wonderful game, and these ones are plants which start growing on jungle grass below the surface level after you've defeated at least one mechanical boss, growing 25% faster in expert mode and beyond. Similar to the life crystals, life fruit increases your maximum HP when used, though these items only increase your HP by 5, which is visually shown by turning one of your existing red hearts into a gold heart. You can use a total of 20 life fruits on one character, allowing you to reach up to 500 total maximum HP, which has long since been considered a very significant boost in strength for a character, and picking up life fruits as soon as possible is generally a priority for most players. There are a couple more interesting items that give permanent buffs that were added before the big wave of them that came in 1.4.4, the first of which is the Torch God's Favor. This item is interesting because it was actually added in an update that was labeled as a hotfix. You obtain it by surviving the Torch God event that was added in the same update, which is something I'll let you research on your own. But when used, Torch God's Favor gives you the ability to automatically convert regular torches and campfires to the current biome's torch or campfire variant, which aside from making your endeavors more atmospheric, also positively influences the player's luck in most areas. There's also a toggle for this ability that appears to the left of your inventory after you use the item, so if you don't want the effect, you can always just turn it off. Advanced Combat Techniques is a consumable item resembling a spell tome that is obtained by fishing during a blood moon, which was added in the Journey's End update. This item can be used one time per world and doesn't actually add anything to your character itself, but instead permanently buffs your NPCs, giving each of them 6 more defense and 20 more attack, which honestly isn't that much of a buff for most NPCs, at least in the higher difficulty modes, but they're absolutely pathetic against enemies, especially in hard mode, so I suppose any boost helps. This was the only NPC buffing item until the 1.4.4 update was released, which brought us Advanced Combat Techniques Volume 2, another single-use per world gold item that has the same effect as advanced combat techniques, which stacks with that item, giving your villagers a total of 12 extra defense and a 40% attack buff after you've used both items. The way you get this item will be in a recurring fashion that we'll be seeing a few more times, which is by throwing an item into one of the most impactful new additions to the game in 1.4.4, the Shimmer Liquid. In this case, you throw a spell tome into Shimmer and it will transform into Advanced Combat Techniques Volume 2, which you can then use. There's a slew of new items that you can obtain using the Shimmer Liquid, all single-use consumables which give small permanent buffs, which while not being super impactful in my opinion, are still really cool novelty additions to the game. The first one is the Vital Crystal, which you get by throwing a life crystal into Shimmer, and when used, permanently boosts health regeneration, specifically speeding up health regeneration ramping by 20%. By tossing a life fruit into Shimmer, you will obtain an Aegis fruit, which will permanently increase your defense by 4. Throw in a mana crystal and you'll get an arcane crystal, which permanently increases your mana regeneration by reducing the time between using mana and the mana beginning to restore. We have Ambrosia, which increases your mining, tile, and wall placement speed by 5%, obtained by throwing any kind of fruit into Shimmer Liquid. A bit of a funny one is the Gummy Worm. You throw a gold worm into the Shimmer and it becomes a gummy worm, because why not? A gold worm in critter form can also turn into this item, which when used permanently increases your fishing power by 3. Next, we have the Galaxy Pearl, pretty cool looking. You get this by transforming a pink pearl with the Shimmer Liquid, and it increases your luck by 0.03% when used, which is a really small amount, but I'm sure has some sort of noticeable effect in the realm of the luck mechanic. Our final item that we can get in this manner is the most interesting one to me. It's called the Peddler's Satchel, which you obtain by throwing the Peddler's Hat into Shimmer. The Peddler's Hat itself, an item dropped when the Traveling Merchant dies. When you use the Peddler's Satchel, it permanently increases the number of items sold by the Traveling Merchant by 1. It's certainly a singular item in its effect, which I really like, and the effect itself is actually kind of useful since the Traveling Merchant has a large number of unique items that he sells, and this makes it a little easier to get all of them, or at least get all of the ones that you want. That's all of the buffing items that you can get from the Shimmer Liquid, but there's 2 more that were added in 1.4.4, the first one being a piece of bread. This is the Artisan Loaf, which can be purchased from the Skeleton Merchant for 10 gold coins during a waning crescent, new moon, or waxing crescent. And yes, if you didn't know, Terraria does actually have a moon cycle. Don't worry, I've never paid any attention to it either. But if you can get your hands on this item, it will permanently increase the range that the player can access crafting stations by 4 tiles in all directions, which while seemingly being an extremely random buff, I actually think is rather nice. I can't tell you how many times I'll just have crafting stations strewn all over my base in a Terraria playthrough, and I know I might sound like a bitch, but moving your character from crafting station to crafting station really can be kind of annoying, especially if you're crafting from the inventory of a chest. So this piece of bread is certainly a game changer for me. Our final item is the minecart upgrade kit, which actually replaced the mechanical cart as the craftable item that you make out of the expert mode mech boss drops. You still get the mechanical cart as the kit gives it to you when you use it, along with a massive upgrade to all minecarts, being a large speed boost, defense while moving, and a laser attack. These are stats and features that previously only the mechanical cart possessed before 1.4.4, so it pretty much allows you to just use any minecart you want with those same stats and effects, which I think is a pretty cool idea. With that, we're gonna wrap it up though. That is every single permanent buff that you can obtain in vanilla Terraria. I was actually prompted to look this up after finding the Artisan Loaf myself in game and was surprised by how many items like this had been added, so I decided to cover them in my next video. That's pretty much it though. I got nothing else to add to that. I just think that the permanent buffing items are pretty cool and I'm glad that they added more of them. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.